Hi everyone, doing a tag today, which is the mid-year check-in tag, and this is a tag I always like to do over the mid-year freakout tag, which is the one a lot of booktubers do, and just because I don't really like the title of that other one so much. I mean, I think a lot of the questions cover a lot of the same ground, but I don't feel like we should be freaking out about what we're reading or not reading, or that there's this like competitive thing that we feel like we must have read a certain amount by a certain point of the year, whereas I don't think we should place these expectations on ourselves as readers, and I just like the more chilled, relaxed look at checking in rather than freaking out. But I'd be really interested to know your answers to all of these questions as well, if you want to answer them in the comments below or make your own video. And so the first question is, how many books have you read so far this year? And yeah, I don't normally like to count so much anymore because it feels like it is like putting this pressure on myself. But I did go back and count, and I've read 45 books so far this year, and that's probably a bit less than what I normally do, but that's sort of fine, I think, especially given the current circumstances and all of the stress there is around in the world today. It makes it really hard to concentrate and focus on books. So the next question is, what's your favorite book so far this year? And again, I'm going to sort of like cop out a bit. I don't really like to pick favorites so much. I talked about my 10 of my favorite books recently in a video, and I don't like to rank them so much. But if I were forced to make a decision, I'd probably say it would be Joyce Carol Oates' new book, Night Sleep, Death, the Stars. And I know that seems like a very obvious choice, and she's my favorite author, but at the same time, I do think this novel is absolutely extraordinary, and she really proves that, she's at the forefront of writing about these larger issues in America, and is able to do so through a very concentrated story about one family and how their particular story plays out, how these larger issues affect them in a very specific way. And yeah, I thought it's just so incredibly moving and great. The next question is, what is the most disappointing book you've read so far this year? And I would have to say it's probably American Dirt, Janine Cummins' book. And I know I had this big stress about whether I should or not read this book at all, given all the controversy around it. But I did read it and tried to give it a fair go on its own grounds. And part of me just felt so disappointed that there's all this fuss over this story, which is essentially like quite a generic type thriller story about a woman on the run with her child, but within this larger political context of immigration from Latin American countries to the United States. And obviously, I don't mean to trivialize the big argument and issue a lot of people have had with this, which I think is quite justified, about the publishing industry and the unfair advantage of white writers writing about this sort of experience are given over favor of Latin American writers writing about this experience. And so yeah, I don't mean to like diminish that, but then at the same time, I think it is like quite clunky how she handles a lot of these issues in it. But at the same time, I think it's really unfair that so much hate has been thrown upon this author, and the way the book is marketed more was like as an expression of this part of American experience and these larger political issues, whereas that's she definitely wasn't saying that hers isn't the only voice talking about this. She lists in the back of the book all these other writers who she is grateful for also writing about this experience. So I feel like it's sort of like unfair, but at the same time, it's just, I just personally didn't think it was that great of a book. That that is kind of melodramatic how it was all done. So yeah, just as a reading experience, just in myself, I found it quite disappointing, but at the same time, I appreciate other people have really connected with it and enjoyed it in different ways. And but yeah, it just wasn't for me. The next question is, what genre have you read most this year? I don't really know how to answer this. I mean, miserable literary fiction, and that's quite often what I'm drawn to reading. I probably would say translated literature. I don't think that's actually a genre. I definitely wouldn't classify it as that, but I have found myself reading more translated fiction just because I've been following the Booker International Prize and have been enjoying so many books that have been translated into to English. and that's how I'm going to answer the next question, which is name a new favorite author that you've discovered this year. And I would say Adania Shibli, because I thought this was such a masterfully crafted short novel, Minor Detail, and I think this is an author that really deserves to be better known, and this was translated. I should name the translator just because, if I'm talking about translated literature, it is translated by Elizabeth Jacquet. And and I named this as one of my favorite books of the year so far. And she's written two other short novels, so I really want to go back and read those now. I think they were published quite a few years ago. Her output isn't like massive, but it's incredibly skillfully written. How she does it, she condenses and says so much in a very short amount of time. And I know I've made other videos this year talking about short novels and how impactful short novels, and I think this is a writer that really deserves more recognition for that. Next is, what is the most surprisingly good book you've read so far this year? Which is sort of a shady question, but I would probably say A Thousand Ships by Natalie Haynes, and it's not that I wasn't expecting this novel to be good. I've heard such great things about it, and Anna praised it so highly, so I was really looking forward to it, but I had very low expectations just because I thought, oh, it's another novel which is a retelling of Greek mythology from a female point of view, since there's been several books like that in recent years. But I was so surprised and delighted by this story and how much I enjoyed it and got involved with it, and also the really unique point of view that she takes in many of these different stories from many different women's point of view, and the overarching story she creates about this, and the dramatic tension she creates, giving a different perspective on these different mythologies. I really enjoyed, and so I thought this was a great surprise. What are your favorite and most anticipated 2020 releases? So one book I'm still hugely looking forward to, which is going to be published soon, is David Mitchell's new novel Utopia Avenue. I'm hoping to read this soon, but it's quite a thick book. How long is it? It's like 560 or so pages. I really enjoy him as a writer, and I think this novel is a bit more like his novel Black Swan Green, more than his kind of a more fantastical type fiction. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Also, another novel I'm really hugely anticipating, and another much beloved writer, is Sarah Moss. She has a new novel called Summer Water. I'm very excited to have a copy, and I'm really looking forward to this because I think she is such a powerful writer, like probably one of the greatest writers working in England at the moment. Question 8 is, what's your next big priority for your reading? And mine is probably this debut novel Love After Love by Ingrid Persaud. This novel I talked about, I've been wanting to read. I hauled it quite a long time ago and heard the author read at an event with the publishers, and it sounded really good. It's been praised by Marlon James and Rachel Joyce and Andre Osman, and also I wanted to read it for the Caribathon, which I didn't manage to read it during that 10 days or so that readathon was going on, but it's another one that I've just been looking forward to so much, and I've started reading it, and I absolutely love the story and the characters, and I'm really involved in it, and the whole voice of it is fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to finishing reading this. Question 9 is, what has been your bookish highlight of the year so far? And I have to say it is the experience of interviewing Joyce Carol Oates, which I've been gushing about ever since it happened, and is an absolute dream come true, but was so fascinating being able to ask her some of the questions that have been building up for me over the many years that I've been reading her books about her thoughts on literature and writing and her reading life, and about this novel specifically, since I think it is such an amazing new novel by her. It was so wonderful having that conversation, and she during the course of that talk I had with her, she did invite me to her home, and so that's my next like major goal when travel is allowed again. That hopefully I'll be able to go to New York City at some point and make as a side trip down to her home in New Jersey to actually visit her and see her home. Like, wouldn't that be the most amazing experience? I'd absolutely love that. So yeah, if you're interested and want to listen to and watch my conversation with her over Skype, no, over Zoom, it's not over Skype, that I had a talk with her. I'll put the links to that interview below. And finally, it asks, who do you tag? I don't tag anybody specifically. Like I said, if you want to make your own video responding to these questions, or if you want to answer them in the comments below, I'd be really interested to hear all of your answers as well. It's just sort of fun to check in how our reading year is going. Like I said, it's not like a competitive thing. I don't think reading should be like a competitive thing, but it's just sort of interesting to take stock on how your reading has been going and your goals for the rest of the year. And there's a lot of great new books that I'm hoping to read before the end of the year, as well as some great classic titles as well that I'm hoping to get to. So those are all my answers. Hope you're doing well. I'll speak to you again soon. Bye everyone.